Welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, where our job is to help you build visibility, professional credibility, and connection with your ideal client by putting the human at the center of innovative marketing, so you can build and strengthen an engaging, enduring relationship with your ideal clients. I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm honored that you're here with me. If you haven't joined our wonderful marketing transformation community yet, go to innovabiz.co and collect your free gift as well. Do subscribe to the show and also leave a review because it helps others find us. Let's get into today's masterclass on this InnovaBuzz podcast.
A course that is essentially talking about high-level funnel building and really advanced strategy can't dumb it down so it's just, very surface level introduction sort of thing in the actual material. So it's making sure it's relevant for the audience that you are trying to sell it to and making sure that it's actually actionable and there are tangible takeaways. And those are like the two biggest things that we're looking for when we vet our courses as well. And the other thing is it still relevant? Like some of the Facebook ads courses that I've taken, I learned nothing from because the dashboards were from I don't know how long ago and it looks completely different now and the algorithm has changed, strategies have changed. So just making sure that it's up to date, still actionable, and it's the right level of depth for the audience.
Welcome back. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. Now, if you haven't yet listened to my recent conversations with Oleg Lohid of Overcoming Odds and with speaker and transformational coach Rusty Gaylard, then do check them out because they're well worth it. But listen to today's conversation first. I'm really excited today to welcome back to the InnovaBuzz podcast as my guest, Eman Zabi. Eman is a launch copywriter and founder of the Scribesmith, as well as founder of Terrain. Eman started her career writing about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, which then led to work as an outdoor copywriter, before her love of research led her to work primarily in the launch space as a copywriter. Eman spent a lot of money on online courses to advance her skills and found that the most popular courses aren't necessarily the ones that provide the best content. They're just the ones with the best marketing team. This means course creators with great content aren't able to get in front of the right audiences, and course takers get duped by misleading marketing. So this led her to start Terrain, a course platform with curated courses for entrepreneurs. Eman previously appeared on the InnovaBuzz podcast on episode 270 to talk about her business, the Scribesmith, and today we focus on Terrain. In our discussion today, Eman talked to me about the problems with most online courses and why less than 10% of people complete courses they buy. Startling statistic. We talked about what makes Terrain different as a course platform, how it makes it frictionless to take courses, complete courses, and to take action as a result. And we talked about how to get engagement on courses through challenges, collaborative spaces, goals, and reminders, as well as notes areas within the course. Without further ado, then let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Eman Zabi. Hi, I'm your host Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited today to welcome back to the InnovaBuzz podcast from Vancouver, Canada, Eman Zabi, who's a launch copywriter and strategist, and she's founder of the Scribesmith, as well as founder of Terrain, which is a course platform that has vetted courses which actually deliver on their promises. Welcome back to the InnovaBuzz podcast, Eman. It's a real privilege to have you back on the show.
And it's a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, as I said, welcome back. You appeared previously on episode 270, which was just over a year ago. Since then, you've launched Terrain, which I mentioned, and May-Kate Sang, who was our guest on episode 385 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, suggested that we talk to you about Terrain. So big hello to Make.
Awesome. She's amazing.
All right, now before we start talking about all things courses and course platform and marketing your courses, in our last podcast conversation, you shared your philosophy of just getting it done and keeping it simple to start with and producing minimal viable work and then improving with the feedback given. We also talked about your research process, which involves acting like your audience. And I really like that. That kind of rang a bell and resonated with me, and what you can learn from the voice of the customers. So how do those philosophies shape what you do in Terrain in particular?
So that's an interesting question, because I think the idea behind Terrain actually came from talking to a lot of the course creators who were coming our way. Most of them were, we were fortunate enough where our business had kind of got to a point where we had, where we were mostly booked out, and we'd also priced ourselves out of the initial beginner kind of market. But we would get these people who had deep expertise in their subject, but weren't necessarily marketers, and they would come to us and they're like, I have this course, but I don't really know what to do with it. And we check out the course sometimes and it would be incredible material, and it was just kind of through those conversations with them that we realized one of the bigger problems in this industry is that the most popular courses, they don't necessarily have this deep expertise behind them. They just have great marketing teams. So that's kind of where the seeds for Terrain were really sowed. It was really from that research process and having conversations with people in the industry that we started to see a trend amongst people's pain points. And as consumers of courses ourselves, I talked about this on many, many podcasts. I've been burnt by so many courses. We did the numbers before we launched Terrain, and personally, I've spent around $20,000 on bad courses.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask what makes a good course as opposed to, those bad courses that make up some of that $20,000.
So I think the number one thing is that it has to do what it says on the box. So many courses make these big outlandish claims and very seldom follow through on it. It's a lot of fluff and a lot of believe in yourself and you can manifest this if you try. And I call BS on that. I think they need to be actionable, and then they need to be relevant for, they need to make it clear who it's for. So a course that is essentially talking about high level funnel building and really advanced strategy can't dumb it down so it's just, very surface level introduction sort of thing in the actual material. So it's making sure it's relevant for the audience that you are trying to sell it to, and making sure that it's actually actionable and there are tangible takeaways. And those are like the two biggest things that we're looking for when we vet our courses as well. And the other thing is it still relevant? Like some of the Facebook ads courses that I've taken, I learned nothing from, because the dashboards were from I don't know how long ago, and it looks completely different now, and the algorithm has changed, strategies have changed. So just making sure that it's up to date, still actionable, and it's the right level of depth for the audience.
All right. So you think that, like that example of the Facebook courses, people update their marketing to kind of match the promise with what potential students are looking for, but the course content is still based on how Facebook advertising worked years ago.
Yeah, that's an example that from my own life, really. That's I bought a Facebook ads course, and I'm like, I recognize nothing of this. My Facebook ads manager does not look like this. I don't know what you're talking about. None of what you're saying makes any sense anymore. So that's one of the things that we encountered, but also more like courses that make really big claims, like courses that tell you that you are going to, big claims and also vague claims, I think. So things that promise, that you're going to be able to systemize your business and fight overwhelm and all of those kinds of things, generally I think are not great courses, because they aren't making tangible promises. And if you don't, and this is a thing that I think is almost like a sleazy sales thing. Like if you don't promise something tangible, then you can't be held responsible for not delivering it. And that's what I feel like when I see a lot of courses out in the industry.
So how do you curate the courses then? What are you, I mean, you've outlined some of the criteria, obviously, you go through in terms of selecting a course to be on terrain, but how do you determine, for example, that the promise that they've given, and just to take the example of a time management one, I mean, one of the ones that I've seen recently, and I think, oh, that's a really bold claim, we give you back an hour every day, right? So that's very tangible. But how do you curate courses that you say, well, that course is a good course because the student is going to achieve that result?
So we actually studied a lot of rubrics that universities put together to evaluate whether courses, university level courses are hitting their benchmarks and are meeting their quality control standards. And from those, we sort of built our own, and we're looking, we look for, like I said, actionability, depth, relevance, but also overall, like audio, video quality and things like that. But then beyond that, we actually sit and go through the courses ourselves. And I go through it myself, and then we have usually one or two more people go through it. And it's usually whatever claim that's being made. So for example, if it's time management course, are actual steps being taken that if somebody actually went out and tried to implement them, would they actually get some sort of results? Maybe it's not an hour a day, but maybe they're saving. Is there a potential for it to work out is kind of what we're looking for. And generally also, I think what's important is also how engaging the course is. So was it easy for us to get through the course? Did we feel like at the end of it, were there any light bulb moments? I think taking a course is a lot like reading a book. You may or may not learn what the author is promising to teach you, but as long as you have like some light bulb moments at the end of it, you walk away feeling satisfied. And that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, I like that, the idea of light bulb moments. I'm using something right now that helps me with the books I'm reading, because you mentioned that, and there's every now and then when I'm reading a book, I have that light bulb moment. I think, oh, wow, that's a great suggestion or a great idea or a great quote. And so I mark them now, and I've got a thing called Readwise, which brings them back to me over time. So I now have a huge collection of them because I've built it over several months that I've been using it, and it comes back with a reminder. With the courses, how do you help the students take the action? Because one of the things I see a lot is, and I've done this a lot, I'm guilty of this as a course consumer, of buying lots of courses that many of them are actually really good. I've selected ones that I've hit on something really good, and then I go through part of it and stall, and I get distracted by the next shiny object. And because I haven't taken all the steps in the course, haven't gone through each module and implemented the actions, I don't actually get the result, even though the course might be great. So how do you help the students stay the course and take the actions to get the results?
So course completion was one of the things, one of our priorities when we were building terrain, because I'm terrible at taking courses. And honestly, I'm a terrible student. I dislike taking courses. I very rarely am able to sit through a course. And really the idea was that if we could build a platform that made it possible, and rather made it frictionless for somebody like me to take a course, then anybody could take a course, really, truly. So we started with the idea that people get distracted really easily. So we need to make sure that we're able to have like a built-in reminder system for people. So we've done this in a couple of different ways. First things first, we are incentivizing completion. So when people actually finish the course, that's the only way they can unlock like their certifications. There's badges and gamification, and they also unlock points, which we call peak points. Those points, are not awarded on purchase. It's only on completion. And those can be traded in for discounts, or they can be donated to Kiva, which is a microfinancing organization that supports female entrepreneurs in developing nations. So that's one side of it. Then we've also got a course completion challenge. So the first time you purchase a course on Terrain, you get like a side-by-side walkthrough of day one, set your calendar, put this like with a link that blocks out time on their Google Calendar. And then it encourages them the next day to head to the roundtables, which is our discussion feature. And it's got this whiteboard functionality for collaborative learning. I'm someone who really likes being able to use sticky notes and things like that while I'm learning. And I found that lots of people we spoke to learn in a similar way. And having a collaborative space where everybody could kind of do that and share their takeaways was another way we could kind of keep engagement high. The other thing that we do is we also have, your student dashboard where you set goals. And every time you set your daily goal, and if you don't go back in and mark that you've completed it, you get a reminder the following day. So just little things that act as triggers to bring you back to the platform, bring you back to the course and make sure you're finishing it. And then the other parts of it kind of that we have to consider is that most platforms like, Teachable, Kajabi, Podia, things like that, they are like Wix and WordPress. They're selling you internet real estate for you people to put your courses up. They aren't designed with completion in mind. They aren't designed with student experience in mind. And that's really what we try to do. One of my biggest pet peeves with something like Teachable is that while taking a course, I couldn't actually take notes of this, like watching the video, I couldn't scroll down and take notes at the same time. Like, I would lose the video, and that used to be incredibly frustrating for me. I'd have to have like another tab open and take notes, but then I couldn't watch the video at the same time. So just little things like that. Like on Terrain, it's rich text edits, but they're right next to your video, so you don't have to scroll away. And then they export directly into Google Docs, because that's what most entrepreneurs use. So just little things like that eliminate the friction in the course taking experience. And like when you purchase a course now from like an entrepreneur who has their course on, say, Kajabi, and then you purchase something else from somebody else, then they're going to get another Kajabi link, and you have all of these different logins that you have to keep track of and all of that. That was a problem for me as well. Like I would never log back in because I didn't remember what I signed up with. But with Terrain, everything's in one place. Like our big goal was to just streamline the course taking experience in every way possible.
Yeah, I love that. I had to laugh because I signed up for a course this morning. Somebody gave me a voucher for getting a $100 course for $5 by subscribing to their new YouTube channel. And I thought, that's a really clever way to kind of promote their new YouTube channel. And I was interested in the course as well. So I thought, well, it's worth $5 to check that out. And of course it was on Teachable, and I've already got about 5 or 6 courses on Teachable. So my password manager came up and said, which password do you want to change? I've got to be really careful. Got to be really careful here that I don't change a password. Otherwise I've lost access to another one. Yeah, it really is. It's not a good experience, that, is it?
Yeah, no. And really, I mean, there's so many little things like that, I think, that add up to the fact that people just don't complete courses. When we were doing research for Terrain, we found that it's less than 10% of people who start courses actually finish them. And that's horrifying because, especially in our industry, I mean, courses go up to a few $1,000s. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
It is. I didn't realize it was that low. I knew it was pretty low. I knew it was under 25%, but less than 10, yeah. That's really low. One of the things that you do with, I mean, you talk about helping organizations build scalable revenue through courses by helping them take the marketing off their hands so that they can focus on their course and their the quality of what they're creating, the quality of information that they have, which you referred to earlier. What are some of the things you do to market that and to get, because you talked earlier, and I'm really curious to explore this further, the idea of getting it in front of the right audience, so that starts off with, these are the people this is going to help the most, and so that 10% number, the basis to start from there is probably going to be a lot better. and then all the things that you're doing within Terrain hopefully will take that 10% up to 80 or so. So what do you do from a marketing point of view to get it in front of the right people and get their attention?
Totally, and I think you just read that off our Scribesmith website. So that's the other, so that's the other side of our business. But really, what we're doing on the Scribesmith side, it's more one-on-one work, and we work really closely with course creators, and we would do a lot of the research process that I think I chatted about last time. Set up interviews with people, really get into their heads, figure out what their motivations are, their objections, pain points. What pain is driving them towards this course and things like that. So it's just a lot of deep dive figuring out who the right person would be for that course, and then going out and finding them. And that would really involve, if those people already exist within the course creators audience, then it's almost like creating content that is almost, I like to think of it as lighthouse content. So you put the right content out there, and if your people are in your audience, they're going to be attracted to it, and then they kind of enter your funnel that way. And if you don't have them in your audience already, then Facebook ads and paid advertising and things like that are a really good way of doing that. Now on Terrain, we do things a little bit differently, because Terrain isn't just we aren't just selling each course individually. Because it's a platform, it's very much about getting the right people onto the platform first, and then selling the courses through that. Especially with everything that's been happening with Facebook ads, etc., it made more sense for us to work on attracting people to the platform and then sell through email and things like that. Now, because we have we only really targeting entrepreneurs for Terrain, and really mostly early stage entrepreneurs for Terrain. All of the courses on Terrain are also courses that can help an entrepreneur level up. So really, we kind of made sure that we have a captured audience for all of the courses that we kind of put on Terrain right from the start. And then as we continue to grow that base, then the audience for the courses also expands, if that makes sense.
So you've kind of got an ecosystem there of different courses, and if people take one course on, you mentioned earlier that they get points for course completion, so they've got something to spend perhaps on other courses, and
exactly.
and also, I mean, as a user of Terrain and consumer of one course, I will then appreciate how good quality that course is, and if I find something else that is of interest to me, then I know that's going to be a good quality course.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going for. And I think, again, the difference between Terrain and other course platforms is that our interests as an organization, as a company, align with both the course creators and the course consumers, because it's in our interest as a company to put the best possible courses out there. For a course creator, they know that they're in good company because, all the courses have been vetted, and there's almost like a increase in perceived value that we've kind of seen. We've been getting emails from people requesting that we reach out to so-and-so course creator and ask them to put their courses on Terrain because they want to know for sure that it's been vetted. So there's almost like a little bit of an extra trust and a little bit of an extra prestige thing that comes for course creators. And when students are actually completing these courses, then they're more likely to purchase from, if they got value from the same course creator, if they come out with something else again, they're more likely to purchase. So when courses do well, then it's great for the course creator. Students are actually finishing their courses, which is great for us. And then there's the aspect that, giving back to entrepreneurs in developing nations, and when all of that kind of aligns really well, that's when our company grows as well. So our interest is always aligned with everybody else. Whereas with other platforms, all they really care about is getting your $39.99 a month as you pay your hosting fees. So they don't really have as much skin in the game as we do, which is to be seen if it's going to work out in the long run. Like, I have to be perfectly honest, we've only been around for a couple of months, and we have to see how this goes. But I mean, the response that we've received from the community has been tremendous. the number of people who have written in to tell us that they really feel so strongly about what we're doing is incredible. I think we're just at the point where we're just working on getting some more traction, and I think then we're off to the races.
And also the other thing, and this may be across both of your businesses, across Scribesmith too, but I know you've kind of built your team quite rapidly during the growth of both of those businesses, and you've got an interesting take on that. So talk to us a little bit about how you go about building your team, who you bring on, how you train them, onboard them, and how that's working for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a little bit of a personal decision because when I started this business, I was a fresh grad with no real work experience. Most of the people I've hired have been in similar situations. They've been fresh grads, with these great degrees, but no real luck finding a job where they could apply those skills. And we've trained them on everything from our copywriting to visual programming, because we built terrain in-house. And yeah, that's kind of really the process over there. It's almost exclusively women, and it's almost exclusively someone with no experience. And we do a ton of training in-house, just to make sure that we hire for culture fit, and we hire for personality and base level. If somebody shows they have the right attitude and base level skills in the area, and then we train for the rest.
Yeah, and there's so much great value in that approach, isn't there? The hiring for culture and hiring for values, and personality is part of that, and everything else can be trained, whether it's programming, whether it's writing, whether it's whether it's the customer service part of it. And
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
How did you build all the training? How did you build all the training program and systems and processes internally to do that with the team? Because obviously, you can bring somebody on that is a really good fit for your values and your culture, but you've got to have the critical mass of training material there for them to actually get started with the work that they're supposed to be doing.
Totally. So when we brought our first writer on board, it was a lot of Loom videos explaining how systems and processes and things like that, but also just rounds and rounds of feedback and taking the time to give really, really detailed feedback. For processes in general, what we had is we templated a bunch of things that I do on a regular basis onto the Asana. So every time we have a task come in that is similar to that, our VA will just duplicate it for them, and then they just follow that process every single time. What we also did is sometimes we had to train people on skills that were a little bit outside my own wheelhouse, and for that we've invested in courses for the team and trainings for the team as well. So we do have I think it's the last week, or usually sometime towards the last couple of weeks of every quarter dedicated just to training, and we do deep dive trainings. And then we have a learnings channel in Slack, so every time somebody learns something, they're required to share it on Slack, so we're always learning from each other.
Yeah, I like that idea, the learning channel on Slack for the team. It's kind of it sounds like you're doing the internal training very similar to how Terrain is built, with some of those aspects of the roundtable discussion, the collaborative board, and sharing that information, and then the focus on documenting everything.
Yeah, very much so. We use Loom to document pretty much everything, and then just build we've been looking at moving on to something like Notion eventually, but right now everything is living in Google Docs with this master directory of all the trainings that we've ever done. And yeah, so pretty much the joke on our team is that if you don't know the answer, it's either in the directory or it's in Slack. If you can't find it there, then maybe try Google.
Yeah, I like it. All right. So how can somebody who is a course creator and perhaps is looking for a better platform to place their course on and has some really valuable information to share with the world that can be useful, how can they get involved in Terrain?
So if you head to our homepage right now, it's knowtheterrain.io. There's a button right at the bottom that says apply. And it's a very basic form that will just give us a little bit of information about your course. And then the team will get in touch with you and we'll get access to your course. We'll request access to your course, and then we would want to vet your course and make sure it's a good fit for Terrain. This process usually takes about 2 weeks in total. And if it's good to go, then you get the go ahead and we can get you uploaded onto the platform and then start promoting.
And you have a really clear process of how that all works, and the process, I can vouch for it myself, the process is very good, and it does take about 2 weeks and it's all up and running.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, well, this has been fabulous, Eman. It's great to learn about your business in Terrain, and I will refer people back to episode 270 where we spoke to you before, because there's a lot more information there about the Scribesmith, which we haven't really touched on today. But I think it's a good point, and I'm going to do the buzz round again. I know you've done it once before, but I'll be checking back the answers to see how they've
Oh no.
But so there's 5 questions, and hopefully you'll inspire the listener to go and do something awesome as a result. So what's the number one thing you'd think anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Oh, you just need to start doing things. You need to start experimenting and making mistakes, because every time you make a mistake, you'll find a way to do it better the next time, and that's the definition of innovation.
Yeah, I love it. And I've been reading a lot of things lately where people are starting to talk about mistakes more, and mistakes in terms of it's an experiment. The outcome is not necessarily what you might be expecting. So it's not necessarily a mistake, it's just the result of that experiment, which gives you data, feedback. Oh, love it. All right. What is the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
I think switching my brain off, which is very strange for me to kind of say, but I found that watching TV in a language that I don't understand, so I'm forced to watch the subtitles, so I can't be on my phone at the same time, just forces me to immerse myself in a different world. I found that I get really good ideas from that process.
That's an interesting one. I haven't heard anybody talk to me about that, but it is it is true. It means, because I occasionally watch films in a language that I don't understand, where I have to read the subtitles, and usually that gives you a totally different perspective, because there'll be, the cultural differences will come up because it's a different language, so there'll be different aspects to the culture. And then I like to look at the body language, and does it match up with the translation that obviously somebody's made, and whilst I can't judge whether it's a correct translation, sometimes the difference between the body language and what's being written in the text, what I read, is curious, to say the least. But yes, it does switch your brain off, right? It does focus you just to be fully present on that particular thing. Interesting. All right, now you mentioned a few resources recently. What's the favourite one that you use most often?
Lately, it's been Zapier for pretty much everything. I think Zapier has the most appropriate tagline in the world, because it does indeed make me happier. It lets you automate anything and everything at this point, and I'm always looking for new things that I can get set up through Zapier and just take off my plate.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Zapier, and it's so easy to set things up, isn't it? It's every now and then I discover that there's something missing in terms of a tool that they haven't integrated, or the tool hasn't provided them their program interface yet. But there's so many tools you can connect up and basically trigger an event that automatically happens.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're on Zapier Premium and you can access their webhooks, you can pretty much do anything and everything with any tool. So much of what we do on Terrain is integrated with Zapier. I mean, I don't think we would function without it.
Yes, and it does. That's one thing that is a great time saver, because it automates the things that are just repetitive, that don't require any human thought, right?
For sure.
Okay, now what's the best way to keep a client on track? I mean, we talked a little bit, we've talked quite a lot about going through course completion and so on, but let's take it from the point of view of somebody like me who still hasn't finished some of the courses that I actually want to put on Terrain. How do you keep somebody like that on track?
It's something that I don't personally handle myself. I wouldn't even know that you've procrastinated on the course because my VA would be handling it for me, and she would just see that somebody hasn't followed through, because then she can't, proceed to the next step on Asana, and then she will just set a reminder, like a recurring reminder for herself to follow up with you, say every 2 weeks or every 10 days or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So
how we're doing.
You've got the team that keeps people on track for you.
Yeah, because I'm definitely too scatterbrained to do that myself.
All right. Now, what's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Ooh. Okay, this is, I don't know how this answer is going to go down, but not do the silly TikTok dances that everybody's doing on Instagram, because you will lose followers and it's cringy.
I don't pay much attention to those, but I guess that, yeah.
They are everywhere on Instagram right now, and every business owner is doing them.
Right. Okay, so I'll remember not, if I see one, I'll remember not to copy it.
Yeah, for sure. But I think broader than that is just like not following trends that don't make sense for your brand simply for the sake of differentiation. There was hidden meaning underneath the snark.
Yeah, okay, not following the trends, yeah. Do your own thing. Great. All right, so this has been absolutely fabulous, Eman. Thanks for sharing all your insights around courses and the story behind Terrain with us. Now, where can people reach out, find out more about both Scribesmith and Terrain? You mentioned the website before, Terrain, but where can people reach out to you perhaps and even say thanks for what you've shared today?
Twitter is definitely where I'm most active, and that's definitely where I would love to connect with people. And it would just be at Eman_Zabi. Okay,
we'll post links to the Terrain website and your Twitter handle there on the show notes.
Perfect.
Now, do you have any parting advice today that you'd like to leave our listener?
This is something that's kind of been on my mind for a while, and I'm going to share it. It's that most people think that they need to create a course because that's how you scale your business, but there's so many other ways out there that you can scale your business. And honestly, there's this idea out there that everybody can and should create a course. And I disagree with that pretty strongly. I don't think everybody should create a course. I think only create a course if you feel compelled to create a course, not because your business coach told you to create one.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think going back to what we talked about at the outset, which is the quality of courses that are out there, and I think the fact that there's perhaps this movement of you must create a course to scale your business, that pressures people who don't necessarily have the right information or don't have the right personality or character or whatever it is that doesn't make a good course. They just flood the course environment, and it's hard then to find the good stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, when I first started scaling my business, I did something totally different. I manufactured a physical product and have been using that. I mean, that was how we padded out our income, and that was our one-to-many approach. So really, when you're trying to scale your business, you want to figure out what your one-to-many approach is and how you can set that up. And of course, really doesn't have to be it unless that's what you feel most strongly about doing. Like some people are called to be teachers. If that's not you, then you have no business creating a course.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take that on board and certainly figure out your one-to-many approach. I think that's a really good thing to leave on. All right. Finally, Eman, who else should I get on this podcast and why?
Okay. So I was thinking about this one, and I think the person you really need to speak to is Margarita Keys. She is the founder of PeaceX, and they're doing some really incredible stuff. They define peace as anything that creates positive social cohesion, and they're doing it through business and through tech. And the way, her views, I listen to her podcast, I watch her YouTube show, the way her very nuanced approach to business and marketing and strategy is where I think the industry as a whole is going to be in about 5 years' time. So if you want to get ahead, I think you should talk to her.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to speaking with Margarita. You know her personally?
Yes, I do. She's a client.
Great. All right. Well, we'll get an introduction to Margarita from you and reach out to her and bring her on the show. It sounds like
perfect.
Some fascinating work she's doing, and I'm really keen to explore that.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Thanks so much for sharing your time and your insights with us again on the InnovaBuzz podcast. I've really enjoyed having you back on the show, Eman, and I've enjoyed learning more about the background of terrain and all things course creation. And I think the advice of figure out your one-to-many approach, and it doesn't have to be a course, but if you're compelled to do a course, then do a really good one and get on terrain. That's the advice.
I love it. That's the entire episode.
All the best for the future, and let's stay in touch.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thanks again for having me. It was great to be here again.
I hope you enjoyed that insightful and really informative conversation with Eman and took something away from her episode. Eman's insights and the way she's constructed terrain to give value to both course creators and course consumers is really inspirational. I love her lighthouse content metaphor too. I'm curious to know what you took away from Eman's episode. Leave a comment below the blog post, which you can find at innovabiz.co/Eman Zabi 2. That is EMAN ZABI and the number 2. All lowercase, all one word, innovabiz.co/Eman Zabi 2. You'll also find contact information there for getting in touch with Eman, as well as links to the Scribesmith website, to the Terrain website, to Eman's social media pages, and the other resources we spoke about in our conversation today. Now, if you liked this episode and got value from it, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with 2 other people that it will also help. Tag me in on that share, because I will personally thank you with a special little surprise gift. Eman suggested that we have a conversation with researcher and behaviour designer Margarita Keys of the Solve for X podcast on a future InnovaBuzz podcast. So, Margarita, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Eman Zabi. Tune in again to the next episodes of the InnovaBuzz podcast, where we've got yet more fantastic guests lined up, including author of Stand for Something, Brian Burkhart of Square Planet, and leadership consultant and author of Win or Die, Leadership Secrets from Game of Thrones, Bruce Craven. Thanks for listening to this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the show to be reminded of new episodes. It's free to subscribe. Leave a review if you like. Even if you don't like me, I'm okay with that. I'm asking you to leave a review because it helps other people find this show. Go to innovabiz.co to join our marketing transformation community and access a free gift my team and I made for you. It's the Marketing Master Mini Class. We want to give you everything you need to transform your marketing into a human-centered, relationship-focused growth engine. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember, be awesome and keep innovating.